Okay, this morning I've come up with a little device that you might be able to use on your scroll saw. It's a little tool that I find somewhat handy. I call it the scroll saw blade gauge, which it isn't really, but it's more like a reminder type of thing. I don't know if you're like me, but when I'm working at the scroll saw, I put in my particular blade and I cut away with it, and when I'm all done, I usually leave the blade right in the saw, all set to go for next time. But the only thing is, I may, for example, put in a 5R blade, and when I go back to it the next time, I can't remember what size blade it was that I had in there. But I often will just start with it and hope that it's the right size. There's only a few sizes that I generally use, and they're all generally reverse tooth blades. I'll use a 1, 3, 5, 7, or 9. So what I did was I came up with this little gauge as a kind of reminder device. What you do is when you set it up on your scroll saw, and whatever blade you put in, let's say I use a 5R, okay, just slide it over to there, and it records that it's a 5R blade that is in there that you're using. You go ahead and do your cutting, blah, 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 so forth and so on. And when you're all done, you can just leave it right there. And next time when you go back and you say, I wonder if this is the size blade that I need, well, just look in the little window there and it tells you what blade is in there. If you change the blade to another one, just slide it over. Let's say you put a 9R in there instead. Just slide your gauge over, leave it there. Next time you come back, you'll know what's sitting inside the saw. Not a major production, but as you get older, of course, your memory tends to fade, and you can't quite remember what blade it was that you had inside the saw already, and you didn't want to use that size, you want to rather use a different size. You'll know what's sitting there waiting for you. Now, I usually put this on right attached to my scroll saw. Show you how that looks. Okay, I have the Excalibur scroll saw, of course, and this was made for this particular machine, but I'm sure you could modify it to fit your machine, whatever one you happen to be using. Got a little set of legs at the bottom here, and I sort of sized it so that it gives you a little bit of friction when you press this down. You can just leave it right on top of your saw. Okay, so now you're all set to go. Next time you are doing your cutting, you just check, see what's in the window. That was the last one that I used. Or if I want to go over, change another blade, you can just slide it over and leave that right up at all times. And next time I come back, I'll know exactly what blade I was using. Alright. Okay, as usual, I have a little pattern for you if you want to make one of these things. Fairly simple. It's a couple of rectangles, a little window in the middle. You can take these and cut them out, use them as patterns, lay them down on the wood, use your table saw to cut along the edge, use your scroll saw to cut the little window out in the middle there. The two smaller panels go in between the front panel and the back panel, so that it is it's sort of sandwiched in between the two, and it makes that little slider slot in there for you to work on. I even have the little logo. I put a little Star Trek logo on the front. You can put anything you want, dress it up, or just leave it plain if you prefer. After you glue the two together, as I said, you got that little slider slot in there, and you make your gauge. It's about 10 inches long. I divided it up so that I have 5 blades that I generally use. You could put more on there if you want, or less, as the case may be. To mark off the spots, just simply put your gauge, the blank gauge, in there and start it at one point. Take a pencil and just mark the inside slot where it is, and then slide it over and do the next one. And that way you can mark off all the spaces that you'll need in your little gauge. The base is just a U-shaped piece of wood think I use a 1/2 inch piece of plywood for that. These pieces, by the way, are all 1/4 inch birch plywood. And then I glued it to the base, and you're all set to go. You just plunk it down on your machine, and you'll have a little gauge there that'll tell you what saw you're using. You won't have to wonder what is it that I did use last time, and you can make your changes accordingly. Well, maybe you can use this, maybe not. I offer it to you anyways, and good luck with it if you do. Hope you enjoyed this little video. If you did, click the like button down below, and subscribe to the channel. I'm sure I'll come up with more ideas in the future. Oh, by the way, this pattern is free, and if you look down below, you'll find a link for it. Just simply click on it. That'll take you there to my free page, and there's lots of other goodies there too that you might like to try as well. Thank you for watching.